Thank you. In my opening statement, I talked about the challenges we're facing in New Hampshire and so many other states with respect to the heroin and opioid epidemic. We're losing a person a day in New Hampshire from overdose deaths, and about 3 times as many people as traffic accidents in New Hampshire. And last spring, Senator Hoeven and I had the opportunity to go down to our southern border and meet with Customs and Border Patrol in Laredo and watch some of the dogs in action as they were trying to find drugs being smuggled across the border. And I remember very vividly the conversation with CBP where they talked about drugs coming across the southern border and going up the interstates, up 95, which is how they get to New Hampshire, and then up 35 across the middle of the country. And obviously, we've got to confront this crisis on many fronts, but one piece of it is the interdiction of drugs and the challenges that CBP and Coast Guard are facing as they look at how to keep those drugs from coming across the border. So can you talk first about whether there are other things? You just mentioned that you think we're about right in terms of CBP guards. Can you talk about what additional role they might be able to play in interdiction and whether the budget is there to support that role?
Well, I also believe there's a role for Homeland Security investigations.
Absolutely. And, I should have mentioned that.
HSI is part of an interagency task force with DOJ, components of DOJ, to deal with the heroin epidemic in New Hampshire and elsewhere. We have had considerable success at the border with interdiction, but there's the interior effort as well. We have stepped up our interior enforcement efforts with HSI. And as you know, the Coast Guard does a terrific job at sea. One of our national security cutters, you may know, the Stratton, went out on a 4-month mission off the coast of Central and South America, and in just 4 months itself seized over $1 billion in illicit narcotics, including 2 cartel submarines. I didn't know cartels had submarines until last year. But the heroin epidemic is very real, and it has become an interagency coordinated task force mission.
And so when you say it's become an interagency mission, can you talk a little bit about what that means? How are you working across agencies within Homeland Security and with other parts of government and justice that are working on this issue?
I know HSI has been involved in this effort with DEA, FBI, and that has been a relatively recent phenomenon, and I'm happy to get you more details and a briefing we can have our law enforcement.
That would be great. I would very much appreciate that.
Sure.